Have you ever wondered about the divided kingdom and Judah alone in the Bible? It's a complex tale of power, rebellion, and spiritual defiance, which begins with the reign of Solomon's son, Rehoboam. The kingdom of Israel, once united under Solomon, was soon to face a division that would change its trajectory forever. Solomon's faith, once as solid as the famed temple he built, began to wane in his later years. His devotion to the idols of his pagan wives led him astray, and it was in this context that a prophecy was revealed to Jeroboam, as recounted in the first book of Kings. Ahijah the prophet tore a new garment into 12 pieces, a symbolic act forecasting that God would tear the kingdom from Solomon and give 10 tribes to Jeroboam. When Solomon's son, Rehoboam, ascended to the throne, he was expected to rule over a united Israel. But his reign was marred by poor advice and decisions, leading to a rebellion from the northern 10 tribes. These tribes formed the northern kingdom of Israel under the leadership of Jeroboam, leaving Rehoboam with only 2 tribes, known as the kingdom of Judah. Jeroboam, now leading a new kingdom, found himself facing a dilemma. The Israelites were obligated to keep certain feasts at the temple in Jerusalem, located in Judah's territory. He feared that his citizens might decide to stay in Judah if they traveled there for the feasts. To counter this, Jeroboam instituted 4 significant changes to the feast-keeping customs. He changed the location and the date of the new feast. He also allowed priests to be consecrated from any tribe and not just the tribe of Levi. Lastly, he introduced an idolatrous change to what was worshipped. But what Jeroboam failed to realize was that these changes were not authorized by God. He had overstepped his bounds, making decisions that would have profound consequences on the spiritual life of his kingdom. This story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of altering God's commands to suit personal or convenient agendas. Despite Jeroboam's best intentions, his actions did not go unnoticed by God. The alterations Jeroboam made to the religious practices were not mere adjustments. They were a complete diversion from the path that God had set for his people. This did not sit well with the Almighty. In response, God sent prophets to Jeroboam to warn him of the folly of his actions. God's messengers brought forth strong miracles to show the king the error of his ways. But much like a stubborn child, Jeroboam ignored the warnings. He continued on his self-devised path, leading his people away from the true worship of God. This unfaithfulness was not limited to Jeroboam alone. As the kings of the northern kingdom of Israel strayed, so did the people under their rule. They followed their leaders blindly, not realizing the ditch they were being led into. The northern kingdom of Israel deteriorated with each successive king, with the likes of King Ahab and his wicked wife Jezebel, who instigated the persecution of God's truthful prophets. Now let's take a moment to draw a parallel to our modern world. Today, we see numerous denominations making changes to religious practices without any authority from God. These alterations, much like Jeroboam's, are accepted at face value by the followers. But are they acceptable to God? History tells us that such unauthorized changes are sin and lead to downfall. In the case of the northern kingdom of Israel, the downfall was all too real and all too devastating. It was allowed to cease to exist after 200 years of straying further and further from God's path. Unfortunately, Jeroboam's actions led to the downfall of the northern kingdom of Israel. His attempts to secure his reign resulted in the loss of his kingdom and the spiritual downfall of his people. His story serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of straying from God's path and altering his commands to suit our convenience. With the fall of the northern kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah stood alone. The kingdom of Judah, once part of a great heritage of 12 tribes under King David, was now reduced to a mere 2 tribes. The kings that ruled Judah were a mixed bag, some good, some bad. Let's take a closer look. Among the good, we have kings like Hezekiah and Josiah. They were known for their righteousness, their dedication to God, and their efforts to bring the people of Judah back to the path of righteousness. Their reigns were characterized by periods of spiritual revival and reform. where they sought to rid the kingdom of idolatry and restore the worship of the one true God. However, not all kings were like Hezekiah and Josiah. Some, like King Manasseh, led the people astray. In fact, the Bible tells us in 2 Chronicles that King Manasseh seduced the people of Judah and Jerusalem to do more evil than seen before. He introduced idolatrous practices and led the people away from God. This slide into idolatry and sin had dire consequences. The people of Judah began to mock God's prophets, disregard his words, and scoff at his messengers. As 2 Chronicles tells us, they did this until there was no more remedy. In other words, they had gone to the point of no return. Their actions had consequences, and those consequences were severe. God's patience with the kingdom of Judah finally ran out. He allowed them to be conquered and taken into captivity by the Babylonians, led by King Nebuchadnezzar. This was a dark time for the kingdom of Judah, a time of hardship, loss, and exile. It was a time of punishment for their disobedience and idolatry. And so, the once proud heritage of 12 tribes was reduced to the rubble of only 2 tribes. But this is not the end of the story. A third promise to Abraham, "In your seed all nations will be blessed," seems like a distant memory near to fizzle out. However, take heart. God is still working that out in this darkest of times. There is still much to learn from the history of the kingdom of Judah, lessons that are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. The divided kingdom and Judah alone serve as a stark reminder of the consequences of straying from God's path. We witness firsthand the profound impacts of turning away from God's instructions. It is a tale of caution for us not to change from God's authority. In Matthew 7:23, Jesus would indicate there will be many who say, "Have we not done this in your name?" It might have been done in Jesus' name, but without authority. He will say, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness." A stark reminder from the Lord himself. But will it fall on deaf ears today, just as it did in the days of the divided kingdom? Will God's people who bring scriptural truth to light, exposing error, be despised too? As we can see, the consequences of straying from God's path can be dire. These narratives from the Bible serve as a powerful reminder to us today to stay on God's path, to not alter his word to suit our needs, and to always seek his guidance in our actions. While the story of the divided kingdom and Judah alone may seem bleak, it serves as a crucial part of biblical history. It's a tale of kings and kingdoms, of faith and folly, and of the enduring power of God's word. It's a story that continues to resonate today as we navigate our own paths of faith and seek understanding in a complex world. Looking ahead, we'll be turning our attention to the next chapter of this fascinating narrative, the events of the captivity. We'll trace the steps of the Israelites as they are led into Babylonian captivity by Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. We'll explore the trials they faced, the faith they held on to, and the lessons we can draw from their experiences. But this journey through biblical history isn't just about looking back. It's about making connections to our own lives and our own faith journeys, and pointing to Jesus as the answer and final fulfillment of promise. It's about seeking truth and understanding in the words and actions of those who came before us. As we delve into the events of the captivity, we'll be asking, what can we learn from the Israelites' experiences? How can their stories inspire and guide us today? And as we move forward in this journey, we invite you to join us. Subscribe to our channel for future episodes and engage with us in this exploration of faith and history. We also encourage you to take part in our free Bible correspondence course. Simply comment with your address and we'll send you the materials. It's a wonderful opportunity to deepen your understanding of the Bible and its teachings. So, as we close this chapter and look ahead to the next, let's remember that the story of the divided kingdom and Judah alone is more than a tale of the past. It's a story that continues to unfold, a story that's still being written in our hearts and minds. Join us next week as we delve into the events of the captivity. Until then, remember to seek the truth in God's word.